and welcome. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to She's of Love. So, today we have Rachel Rich on the show, and I'm so excited. Also, with a new look
Yes.
from last time, and I love it so much. I think it really suits you, actually.
Yeah.
Mm.
Very liberating as well. It's just instantly lighter. So, it's hair. It'll grow back. I have no attachment to it. So it's letting go of all of that attachment stuff and everything that it holds as well. So, yeah, big decision. And I just flowed with it.
That's good. No, I can tell it really suits you. So, like at least for this time in your life, and as your hair grows, that will suit you as well. And like I see that happening. So, today's topic of
Big one.
conversation is around family trauma. And I guess when I was kind of choosing the topic for today, family trauma just like kind of came. And then I realized that it made a lot of sense with, Christmas coming up and the holiday season, um, because we're all forced to see a lot of our family a lot of the time. Um,
Well, not forced, but it's the time where it's tradition.
yeah, yeah,
Mm, yeah.
exactly. So, I guess I wanted to kind of talk about family trauma and also about like navigating that and um techniques or even just talking about how to move past trauma when you're like around the people that cause
Or
the
cope with it in the moment.
yeah, cope with it in the moment with your family or with the people that caused your pain, I guess. So I'll ask you, Rachel, what's your experience with this? Because I feel like everyone has had a level of experience.
The level,
Yeah.
on some level.
Well, let's face it. I mean, we've all come into this world right from the get-go. There's trauma from the moment we take our first breath. So, and we're being held by our families, so they are our biggest trauma triggers, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. And then, as we evolve, we grow, we evolve. There's periods of our life where things happen. And so, a lot of that stuff gets held in the body and in the
Yeah.
memory. And it all seems to come up at Christmas time when everyone's sitting around having a few champers or beers or whatever. I think a lot of it can be triggered by alcohol as well.
Yes,
I know,
100%.
yeah, I know from my family, like my siblings and my family, that's where a lot of the pain, I guess, that everyone's moving through and feeling it's triggered by that, and it all just seems to come up. So I don't know if there's an energetic, spell kind of thing that brings it all into this big pot and brings it all up at that Christmas time, but it seems to be that time where everyone wants to sort of go to punching stations over the Christmas dinner table.
Yeah, and everyone's experiencing it at the same time.
And
That's the other thing.
and it's the end of
We're
the
all
year.
together.
Yeah, and the end of the year. So whatever's sort of evolved throughout the year, it's all sort of comes down to this one day, or this one a couple of days. I know there's some families that will do it over a couple of days. So for me, I haven't spent Christmas with any of my immediate family for, oh gosh, I've lost count of the years, because it always involved alcohol, and I just didn't want to, and me being the black sheep, it was all kind of, I felt it all. I was kind of being pointed at a lot of the time. And so, as the scapegoat, because no one wants to take responsibility for their pain either. So, they want someone to push and project and blame. So, yeah, I've just sort of steered clear. And over the last few years, I've totally let go of the whole Christmas thing, much to my daughter's disgust, because she's like, oh, but now I don't get presents, got her a few gifts, but it's just, we just let go of that whole traditional side of things because, I read once, I saw a meme many years ago that said, traditions are rules made by dead people.
Yeah.
So hang on, you know.
Yeah, no, I think Christmas was this thing that started out very different from what it is today. And that's just like any Easter, anything, at least with the Catholic or Christian church, because I did a lot of research into this. And basically we have all of our holidays, like Easter is in the spring, Christmas is in the winter, and basically the whole reason why Christmas is around the time of year that it is, and Easter is around the time of year that it is to get the pagans on board with Christianity, because the pagans had like all their equinoxes, and they had their some uh midsummer and then like the winter festivals, and they didn't ever want to turn over to Christianity because they had all these holidays and traditions set up, and actually their holidays were based around the land, so it was always on the equinox or the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And so the Christians came up with this idea to move their Christmas and their Easter to the winter solstice time, and then for Easter
Spring.
the spring equinox time, and that actually got pagans on board. So even the dates that we celebrate have nothing to do with the Bible or Jesus's birthday or anything like that. It's literally just because they wanted to get pagans on board with their religion.
And it's so, to me, it's like so interesting that nobody, well, not nobody, but a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
They're not aware.
yeah.
Because I know as a child, I used to think to myself, why do we celebrate Christmas on the 25th of December? Because to me, it was like, I don't think that's when Jesus was born.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was asking these questions, and my parents were like, oh, well, that's just when we do it. There was no answer to the question. It was
Yeah.
just, well, that's what we've done. That's what we do. It's the traditions that you were talking about that we just
Blindly.
blindly follow. It's like that. I saw a meme too, similar to the one you're talking about, where the daughter puts the bird, like cuts the bird and puts it in the oven. I think for Thanksgiving, she prepares the bird in such a way, puts it in the oven, and eventually somebody asked her, why do you cut the bird? Why do you, because it doesn't make sense to cut the bird. And then she was like, oh, well, that's just how we've always done it. And it turns out that her great grandmother or grandmother, the bird, because her oven was so small, so she had to cut the bird to put it in the oven. And they just continued to do that without asking questions. And so
Yeah.
they were doing something that was actually a practical step in the past, but then it had become a tradition and it was unnecessary. And so it was like, why don't we ask questions? Why aren't we finding out for ourselves why we do certain things in our families? And maybe it's like what you said at the beginning, Rachel, that you're the scapegoat, and the scapegoat, usually the person who doesn't want to follow the status quo, which was me as well, we are the ones who get targeted. So nobody wants to rock the boat. Nobody wants to ask the questions. Nobody wants to say, this is really silly. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Because they don't want the family wrath to come down on them and them be targeted by their family members. Because I know asking questions in my family was frowned upon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. And I think like what you're saying about your traditions are being questioned, and so Christmas isn't as Christmassy maybe.
Yep. Got rid of it all.
And the same thing has happened in our house where decorations aren't as important anymore. We still do gift giving. And I tried to put a tree up this year, and it's just like my arms are like lead balloons trying to put these lights on the tree. And I think I got like 10 minutes in, and then I was like, why am I doing this?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I remember years ago, I always struggled. My whole life, I've struggled through Christmas, but I didn't know why.
Mm.
And then I would sit there and go, why aren't I happy like everyone else is happy? And why don't I enjoy this
Yeah,
for my,
right.
And then being away, I had quite a few Christmases away being in the Navy and stuff. So, that was a new learning curve for me, but I actually coped okay, being the one when I was single to work on Christmas. And, I felt a little bit sad that I was away from my family, when everyone else was together. There was that sense of loneliness, but I managed to get through it. But then when I had kids, it was like you had to pick up those traditions again and, put the tree up and, once the Christmas pageant, we have a Christmas pageant here in Adelaide. I think it's at the end of November or early December. I can't even remember. So that was the Saturday morning that happened. You would sit and watch that on the TV and then put the Christmas tree up. So I haven't got a Christmas tree anymore. I got rid of it a few years ago. And I just, like, my daughter struggled with it because she was a little bit younger. My son was fine. And I don't know how to explain to her how, like when you've done the research like Juliet has and you understand on a deeper level that it's all really just a big spell. It's all just a big wave of, you'll do this because it's just, and it's you're saturated by it. You walk into a shopping center and, it's all around you. And I don't know. I guess I've always been like the Grinch. I don't know. I've been the Christmas Grinch, but it's, I looked forward to Christmas purely when I was working, just to have that time off and that break. That was all it was to me, And I guess I have been a bit Grinchy over the years, but it's, I guess, because it's never sat right within my whole truth. There's something that I knew that wasn't right about it, and I didn't quite have the words to articulate that, and I still don't really have that to articulate to my daughter, but I just let her know that we'll still have a few gifts and we'll still have time together, but I just don't get caught up in the whole wave of the whole Christmas, the tinsel and the songs and the all of that. I look for more of a peaceful, quiet end to the year.
Yeah. So I guess what you were saying about Christmas being a spell, that resonated with me because I work in retail,
Oh.
and you start to see the changes happening and the introduction of music, the introduction of products, and then you start to see the behavior come.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's like what you're saying about Christmas being a spell, it really is when you break it all down and you really look at it through the eyes of, say, new eyes coming, say I was an alien coming to Earth and I didn't know all the ins and outs of Christmas and the traditions of Christmas, I would think to myself, these people are all, their brains are changing and their behavior is changing.
Oh my God, people during Christmas is like,
Everybody changes their behavior at the same time, and
yeah,
it gets, the vibration starts to become very high, stress becomes high.
It's intensified,
It's
just as each day gets
intensified.
closer, it gets intensified, and people counting down, to Christmas. And there's some people that really love it and they love the vibe and they embrace it. And I'm happy for them because I sometimes used to think, why don't I feel like that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Why don't I feel like that? And I guess it leads back into what we've started with today is, it does lead back into family trauma, I guess, too.
Yes.
There's that whole layer of it that's kind of weaved into it as well,
Mm.
It is pretty multi-layered, you know, when you sort of start to really unpack it and break it down. But yeah, it's, you know,
Well,
great.
Christmas, I think, starts the trauma, like the whole story of Christmas. It's like it's a lie. Like that Santa Claus is a lie. We tell our children about Santa. So that's kind of like, I know people think, oh, it's a magical lie and it's supposed to bring joy and it's supposed to be like,
Really coming from, Claudia.
exactly, exactly. And that's a trauma. Lying to your children is a trauma. It's like when they,
Especially about a man breaking into your house and
yeah,
things.
when you really look at it. Like I watched a video of this young girl talking about Santa being a creep. And like she's like, "Well, think about it, like he breaks into everybody's house and everybody's excited about him coming into their house when they're asleep at night. It's like that
Yeah,
sort of thing that's creepy.
totally, totally.
So that's a trauma in my eyes, like thinking about the lie that your parents tell you and out of like greater society is going along with it. Everybody is going along with the lie at the same time.
And then I then forced that lie onto my children, like when they were little,
Me too.
because I then feared everyone else back then. Like, even though I really struggled with it. I every aspect of it, I really struggled, but I did it because I'm like, well, I've got little kids and I've got to give them that experience of Santa and waking up on Christmas morning and all of that. But I struggled with it, and I didn't want the lashback from other people. I wasn't strong enough back then to stand up and say, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't love it. I don't enjoy it. I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
I was a mum and at the time, I'm a single mum too. So it's like, I just went along with it,
Yeah.
like I do, even though I felt and knew that something wasn't right. So I was under the spell, but really I was kind of like, begrudgingly under the spell, yeah.
I think sometimes, because I relate very deeply to what you're saying, and I've thought about this and really questioned myself in those decisions when something doesn't feel right, but I don't know why. So I continually go along with it until I figure it out. Then I'm like, okay, now I have the wherewithal and the strength and the desire to say enough's enough. And I think sometimes going along with things to make life a little bit easier for yourself is a survival technique.
Mm.
And with something like this, where the whole world is in a hypnotism around Christmas time, and they're, new parents are lying to their children and all that whole stuff. I think that sort of pressure on parents is immense. And it's, for us to question it takes a lot of energy.
Mm.
Like I said, you
So,
saturate. If you take a child to a shopping center and there's all these kids, some wanting to line up and sit on Santa's lap, and then you've got the really little ones that are screaming and trying to get away, they inherently know that it's not right. This is not right. I don't want to sit on a stranger's lap and have my photo taken, so if you're not going along with that narrative, how do you explain to a child when it's, unless you just don't take them, it's everywhere you go, you're saturated. Some council areas, they're decorating the streets.
yeah.
With baubles.
Decorating public buses.
Yeah. So how do you're right, it takes a lot of energy to stand up and not do that, whereas I've got stronger over the years, and so I'm okay, to do that now.
Yeah. So I've kind of like forgiven myself for taking the softly approach with things like Christmas. And I mean, I got a lot of backlash on it, and Juliet was like, I want the I want the Christmas tree, I want the decorations, and I was like, because one year I think I just went, nah, I'm not doing it. And Juliet was a bit in shock, I think. She was like, why aren't we, like, what's happening? Why aren't we having Christmas the normal way? And I was just like, just don't have the stomach for it anymore. And
How old was Juliet when you made that decision?
it's probably about 4 years ago.
Yeah, so about 16, 17.
Okay, so
Yeah.
mine was 15,
Yeah.
and which is it's been the last few years, but yeah, it was a real shock to her.
Yeah. But I think you've kind of like I think you understand a little bit more now.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think I miss the childhood,
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the nostalgia.
nostalgia of it.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, like I'm not that
invested.
yeah, and I understand. And if anything, I don't like going to the shops at this time of year. I
Oh.
hate working at this time of year too.
Mm.
People suck.
Yes.
And there's all these like at the bar that I work, there's all these like Christmas stuff parties, and they're the worst.
Why? Because they get drunk.
Yeah, and they're obnoxious, and people are just so rude, and they feel like they have, I don't know, something over you. I don't know.
Right.
It is. I heard from my son in a text message yesterday. I haven't been. He's too busy. He works in a bar as well. He manages a bar in a small town on, not a few hours from where I am now. And he just said, "Mum, it's just so crazy." And because it's not just people coming in drinking, it's these end of year functions that are big. And he goes, and we're doing 280 meals in a day. For a small country pub, it's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And he just goes, "Mum, it's just crazy." And I said, "It's just going to have to be crazy until, next Saturday, where they'll close the doors early on Christmas Eve." Is that Christmas Eve? No, the day before Christmas Eve. So he's run off his feet, and he also runs the drive-through. So he goes, there's a lot, it's just constant.
They have a drive-through
Yeah.
at the pub. Wow.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Don't you have drive-throughs at your pubs?
No.
Only McDonald's and like fast food.
Pubs here have drive-throughs.
Oh, yes.
You mean
No, you're
like
right.
the bottle shop?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not like everywhere. Not
No.
everywhere.
It is a thing, but
It
it's
is a
not
thing.
common.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not attached to pubs many of the time.
If the pub has a bottle shop here, if the pub has a bottle shop, sometimes there's a drive-through.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sometimes, but not all the time.
So it's very, very, very busy,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I can imagine the drive-through would be like crazy.
yeah. And the abuse, like you, Juliet, cops abuse and people just trying to just pull the wool over his eyes around things. And, there's a big Indigenous saturation around that area too. So, you've got that as well to add another layer to that, when it comes to alcohol as well. So yeah, he's really feeling it right now. So he's looking forward to the break.
Yeah, right. So this is the thing. This is the piece of this conversation that's sticking out the most to me, is this spell that happens around Christmas, because for me, a lot of the family trauma that happens, and what you're talking about, Juliet, at the bar, is from people's behavior around this time of year. And it's almost as though the pressures of the last 12 months start to come out because of the recipe of alcohol, food, family members being together, and also probably the gift giving. So you've been out trying to find gifts for people, you're in the crowds, you're getting squeezed, so you're already, your personality.
Oh, even just the city.
Financial pressure, that
Yeah.
just to add to that squeeze as well, because there's an expectation, I suppose, you know.
Yeah, the expectation. And, you probably also, this was something in my family, was the expectation of gift giving. What am I going to get? Like, it was a personality thing. What am I going to get from this uncle and this auntie? Because that was the young, hip and happening auntie. And she normally gave really good presents because she was in tune with the younger people. But the older ones would give you things that were practical and you didn't really want for Christmas, things like that. So there was all this pressure going around for the type of gifts that you were giving as well. And that continued on through the years from when I was a child to then became an adult and started choosing my own gifts to give. And that pressure is like so unnecessary and really it was really difficult to choose what to get everybody for
Kind of quite
Christmas.
suffocating. Like it would be like I'd be yeah, I found it quite suffocating to
Yeah. It
to
was a
roll.
mental load. It's a mental load. It's all these micro decisions that are happening throughout the season. And you know, I remember as a child Christmas carols starting in, around the end of November, probably mid-November to end of November. They start in September now. So that stress,
That
you know,
way, that building, that momentum, isn't it? And it's just to really, really wipe you out.
yeah, yeah. So when you go to the supermarket, because like you, we're not big fans of always going to the shops. Like it's not something that I would choose to do unless I had to go there.
Mm.
Um, and you go into the supermarket and it's like you get bombarded with Christmas carols and you're like, really already? Like, and then the stress starts.
And then the mountains of like Christmas chocolate you see, and like all the little feature things that they do for the products are
Yeah.
Yeah,
everywhere.
at the till.
Yeah, and like
Get onto
yeah, and as you walk in and things like that, and tinsel starts appearing everywhere. I
But
feel like
the
it,
sales, like this, the advertising is what I like. Walking into a shopping center last year, it was almost like as I was walking through, I just kind of kept myself calm, but just the constant like it was almost like it was shouting at people, like the big signage and I sort of just saw it all as, like in the Matrix where you just see all that code.
yeah.
I just see it as just the programming. It was just as I was walking, I could just see that it was all just programs. It was just all programs just all around me. And I was like, oh God, I've just got to get out of this environment. But yeah, so go ahead, Juliet.
I was no, I was just I was just saying that it's I think that programming that you're talking about really does seep into people's minds. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why family it's so hard to see family because everyone's like so, for the past 2 months of like Christmas being slammed in their face and all the stress of the holidays.
Yeah.
It's like I think that's why it's Christmas dinners are so much more
It's a firecracker.
amped up than like like say it was someone's birthday and the same family all were together. I feel like it would be different than
Yes.
everyone at Christmas.
Yeah.
It has a completely different feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And I think that everybody coming together, it's like Christmas is that special, I don't know, it's that special spell. It's like that one
Well,
global.
at a birthday, you're celebrating that person, whereas you're getting together and you're celebrating a lie.
Yeah,
Right.
you're celebrating this like thing that no one really
And everybody's doing it at the same time.
So it's intensified. So innately, whether people realize it or not, maybe that's, the soul sort of screaming out that brings all that to the surface.
Yes, I agree.
You're innately, you're so, what's the word, disassociated, or the cognitive dissonance with the truth and the spell and the belief that you're celebrating, that maybe triggers a trauma, plus all the other, layers of the people coming together, the stress of the year, the financial, the expectation, all of it. It's such a big melting pot of
Yeah. And I think some people know, like, it's boiling at a higher level for them than others.
Yeah.
So other people, they've been able to take on this tradition of Christmas in a way that is less stressful on the surface, because I think everybody has a level of knowledge that it's not right, personally, but some, it's deeper.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for some people, it's like it's on a deeper level, so they don't feel it as strongly. But for some families, I think that even though they're not probably admitting it, or they're not allowing the conversations, or they're not having the conversations, I should say, they're feeling it in their, in their subconscious. And so that's when the fights come out. That's when, because they're not feeling centered, they're not feeling good about themselves. They're not feeling that this is, wow, this is amazing, I know that I'm pretty sure that was how it was in my family, which is part of the reason why when I grew up and had my own family, it was like, I'm going to let go of anything that felt stressful, because I didn't want to put that on my kids. And that's probably why Christmas was like out the door pretty quickly. Because, like you, I was flying like for many, many years when my children were young. And so Christmas was never really fully realized in my household, because a lot of the time I would be away, I'd be flying away. And so we would do what we could, but it was never like a big, deal in our house. So when it went out the door, it was kind of like just a natural transition of it going away. And I don't regret it.
Yeah.
And I think this year I kind of tried to bring it back a little bit with some decorations, and it just wasn't. It was like maybe I was testing the water to see, and it just didn't work. It was
There's
just
an aspect
causing
of
that
you that
stress.
needed to truly know.
Yeah.
Speaking of you flying, I mean, I'm the type of person, like, if I was going over to visit friends and stuff over the Christmas period, I chose Christmas Day to fly because it wasn't busy.
Yes.
I was one of those people that used to fly on Christmas Day.
Yeah, right. Well, flights would be full on Christmas Day.
That they weren't. I suppose depending on what time you took a flight, I suppose. But
Yeah.
they really, it was quite was nice.
It was quiet. Yeah. Well, over the years of flying, so I started flying when I was 21, and I ended flying in 2017. And within that period of time, I think it's 23 years, I saw flights get busier and busier.
Right.
And I think what was happening too was they were getting cheaper on Christmas Day to encourage people to fly those days. And people's attitudes also were similar to you, where they were like, I don't mind flying on Christmas Day because it's not a big deal to me. And so those two factors were filling the planes up.
Yeah.
And, it was like, for someone young, I was like, oh, I wonder why people are flying Christmas Day. Like, I would be thinking that people would want to be at their destination. But now I realize, no, some people are just not, they're just like you. They just were like, I'm flying on Christmas Day. I want to get out of the craziness.
Yep, the airport's not as busy. It's got a nicer feel to it. Still got the Christmas music, but yeah. And another thing to speak to in relation to like the family trauma and that, you've only got to look at these last 3 or 4 years and what was sort of, you know, pushed upon people and how it created that separation with that
Yeah.
traditional family, you know. And as those mandates or rules or whatever it is that they try to enforce are starting to ease up, you know, where does that leave families now? Whereas 2, 3 years ago, they were like, you're not coming for Christmas because you haven't taken a certain injection, you know. Where does that leave? You know, I think there'll be a few firecrackers that in itself will create trauma
Yes.
and discussion around, I don't know. I just think it was going to be a very interesting, you know, Christmas lunch
Yes.
for families.
Yeah, I agree with you there because I definitely had, because my family, my mum and dad are both gone now. So Christmas is completely different to what it used to be. But what you're talking about, that whole experience with, you know, well, you can't come because you're not, you know, you're not a safe person to be around. Um, that happened with my friends in my friend groups. And so, yeah, like there are certain friends who I don't speak to or see anymore, um, because some of them it's their choice and some of them it's my choice. And so it really separated people's groups, people's like friendships and family relationships and things like that. In my immediate family, it didn't. In my immediate family, it brought us closer together, thankfully, but not all families had that experience.
Right. Yeah, it was very fracturing for a lot of families.
Yeah. And that's caused trauma in itself,
Okay.
the thought of making a choice for yourself, a personal choice for yourself that in the past wouldn't be anybody's business because it's private. Your medical choices are private. But in this instance, it wasn't. It was made very public. And um, I think that's a trauma in itself, that you would be shunned or ostracized for a choice that in the past would have been a very private choice. So that massive change in society and people's opinions and the way they treat you and act towards you, um, that's very triggering and traumatizing for society.
There
And
is a
it
lot
kind
of
of,
recent trauma that's coming up to be, well, let's say healed. That's what we're aiming
yes,
at, is for these traumas to be coming up to be healed. So how do we do that? It's day by day, I think. And are you ever truly healed from, you know, your family trauma? Because it's something that it's where you come from, you know.
yes,
So I think it's a work in progress. And I think it's just learning to, you know, I guess attachment and acceptance. So it's that letting go of the attachment and moving into acceptance and just really staying heart-centered and true to yourself, and just, you know, forgiving yourself along the way and those around you that have, you know, caused that trauma, so that you can set yourself free. But it's not something that you just go, oh, I've healed that, you know, I'm past that now. I think it's something that we do continuously, bit by bit, as it shows up. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think it takes time for trauma to heal, and I think that there's a lot of forgiveness involved. Particularly for me, it's been self-forgiveness, because I tend to take on a lot of guilt, and I take on a lot of responsibility, and sometimes too much responsibility for the things that other people do to me, because I like immediately blame myself. for those types of things. And
And
so
that's
I spend
a response. That in
Mm.
itself, just that patterning that we've taken on is automatically a trauma response. So I can speak just quickly before we do go. I sat with the sacred medicine again.
oh, this is good.
Yeah. So and I guess it kind of leans into what you were just saying, Claudia, because my experience this time was completely different. It was much deeper. I mean, it was still very beautiful, but it took me down, like in my head, like in my brain or in my consciousness. It took me through all of these compartments within my mind till I got to a space that was, there was nothing. There was just black darkness, but not in a evil darkness, scary way. It was peaceful, pure stillness. It was just nothing, nothing there. And then I just heard my voice said, my own voice say to me, "It's all you, Rachel."
Wow.
That moment, it was like I got pulled through time and space and through all of these timelines, and it was all happening just so quickly. And I saw all of these things that I've held that weren't mine to hold. And I had
Wow.
urging them out. And apparently I did. No, apparently I did. I vomited. I had no idea that I did. And I was like kind of rolling around, crying out and purging, physically purging all of this out of my system. So it was a completely different experience to the last one. And it wiped me out. Like my first experience, it was like afterwards I got on with my day and I was just floating and it was beautiful and it was totally amazing. And this experience knocked me out for 3 days. I slept for 3 days straight pretty much. And in that time, I was in and out of consciousness and I could feel stuff falling away out of my body. And again, it started off that equally beautiful experience, but it just took me to beyond my consciousness and outside of this construct. But seeing all of my stuff, my family stuff, my career stuff, past life stuff, everything that I've held that I've not meant to, was just making me let go.
Wow.
So, and since then, so that was in September. So since then, because we work through this stuff energetically, and then we have to wait for the physical to sort of catch up. So it's been this process of, purging bit by bit. And for me at the moment, I'm working deep in my body within the fascia and the pain that gets held within my body in that sense. And so it's a long, painful process, but yeah, completely different experience. But it took me a whole lot deeper within myself and just showed me where I do take on exactly like what you said, for what other people's reactions or how they've treated me, how I took that on when it wasn't mine to hold.
Yeah. And that was back in September. So have you noticed a difference in yourself now since then?
Yeah. Yeah. There's
And
just,
what is the difference? What
just
was that?
more letting go. My voice is opening up even more. That I feel myself softening bit by bit, and I'm feeling safer in my body to soften. And
Beautiful.
yeah, so that's what it's sort of leading me to, or letting me lean into, I suppose. And and even though it doesn't look very feminine, me shaving off my hair, it feels like I'm more in my feminine now than even when I had this long hair, because it's also letting go of all of what was held in the hair as well, so
Yes.
yeah. So it was quite a deep experience. But and the other thing that happened was, I think shortly after that, my friend Avalon, did you know Avalon?
No.
My friend Avalon passed away about 2 weeks after that experience, and I was up visiting my son, and I called in Avalon like with her spirit, and it literally took me back into the medicine, and it was quite profound how, you know, she worked with me from like the other side, and actually she came up to me like here, and then every other face of everyone that I've ever spoken to, connected with, just all in this fast sort of it's happening so quickly, but you can clearly see each face, and everyone came up so closely in my face, and everything, every word I heard was, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. So there were these reflections of everything moving through. So and that medicine was still in my body, working with me, and there's a playlist that goes with it. And even last night in the middle of the night when I woke up, I put my headphones in, put Spotify on, and listened to these 2 songs, and it just takes you back into this space, and so, and you know, show me what it is that I need to work with next, you know. And very, very powerful, very powerful.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds very,
So that helps with the trauma. That helps you get down into the nitty-gritty of where it's living in your body.
Into the cellular memory, yeah.
Yeah, right.
A lot of it too, and like I said, into the fascia. You've got to physically work the fascia, but it will take you into your body so deeply, that into the mind, break through the mind and into the body.
wow.
Yeah, because something there, you, in those moments and coming out of it, it's like you are your true self, your true authentic self. So whatever movement or whatever I speak to in that moment is me.
Mm.
Feels good to sort of connect with that. And so, and I feel like it's like, you know, we talk a lot, we've heard a lot of talk about bridging, you know, and I feel what it does is like, you know, I'm here, it takes me to here, and now I'm building a bridge to bring it together.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think what stops a lot of people, because for me, what has stopped me in the past with any type of medicine like that has been the fear of what you're talking about,
Yeah, it takes you right into it.
the fear of the experience, the fear of what I might find out, because I think there's something in me that is afraid of me.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
So there's like, yeah, it's like, well, do I really want to look in the mirror? Do I want to see what's there? So I don't want to go, like, because I'm really interested in medicine and I want to try it, but I don't want to go in having that fear, because I think that fear is what will take over.
It
So
does. It
maybe,
takes you into your fear.
yeah,
Into your fear. But you don't know how that's going to look, and that's what your
yeah,
fear is. Yeah, it is very, yeah, like I don't go into it like, I had a few opportunities earlier in the year and it didn't feel right, but this
yeah,
time showing up in my field in other ways, and so I went, okay, this is time. And you know, when I meet with this shaman, it's not just, okay, you know, there's a lot of preparation. And he knew, because he kept saying to me, whatever you see, he must have known already where it was going to take me. Because he was just trying to reassure me, you know. And I have to say, I was probably a little bit more nervous going into it this time than I was the first time, because the first time I had no idea. Whereas this time I did. And even though it was such a beautiful experience that first time, it was still that, in that first moment, I remember hearing my voice say to myself, oh, you're fucked now, Rach, you know, because you're totally surrendering to it.
yeah,
So, and this time, yeah, I knew that I was surrendering. So, and it just took me to that next level, like that deep within the psyche, the mind, and just showing me it's all me. It's all me.
yeah, it is. It's all you, it's all me, it's all Juliet. And we're each facets of the same energy. the same love, the same source of energy. And so our origins are all the same. So but that, we don't get taught that when we're young and when we're just coming into the world. And that concept comes into our, for some people, it never comes into their consciousness. And for others like us, it'll come into our consciousness later in life. So the concept is like mind blowing, because you're like, how do I understand this?
Yeah.
And I think plant medicine helps with that. It helps to open up the knowledge cell.
And I think you've got to go with the right intention, and know that that's what you're wanting to do. I think some people don't go in with the right intention, and it can
Yeah, right.
But if you're willing to do the work, the medicine will show you where it is that you need to go to do that.
Yeah.
And then it stays with you. So, the music can trigger it back, not as deep, but it can show you, like last night, show me where it is that I want to, where I'm continuing to work. And like after here, I'm driving nearly an hour into Adelaide Hills because I'm going to see a chiropractor, because I've been dealing with a frozen shoulder on my left side. So I'm working deep within my own feminine work, but also, the mother line.
Yeah.
And all of that's coming up, and it's all frozen here. So, I'm working to reduce the pain and also to unfreeze whatever is stuck there and not showing me where I need to do some more work. And within forgiveness and releasing and understanding, and it's deep.
Awesome.
Wow. What a beautiful conversation.
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
It's always lovely. And I'm inspired on my medicine journey, because it's something that I'm interested in, to do it with a shaman, so I can have some guidance in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
If you feel ready, connect with me and I'll point you into a direction where there is someone that I truly trust with, being a really amazing space holder, and not just anyone that's kind of decided to do it a few times, and someone who's deeply, deeply connected and was born. I've seen his birth chart. He was never going to be anything else other than a shaman. So
awesome.
Yeah. So it's beautiful.
Okay, thank you. I'll take you up on that offer.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for watching this episode, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
And thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Rachel.
Rachel.
Mwah.